For most people who buy a compact tractor, especially a new compact tractor, it is a waste of money and it cannot be financially cost justified for what they spend on it and what they get from it. And that seems super counterintuitive and like maybe I'm trying to clickbait or sensationalize, because what I do is make videos about equipment, and every day I'm reviewing some kind of equipment, a lawnmower, a sawmill, a log splitter, and I focus most on compact tractors. And every day I'm talking about some compact tractor. And it's a hobby of mine. I'm kind of obsessed with tractors, but I want to be real and have a real conversation about price justification as it relates to equipment. And this is all coming from conversations I've had with just regular people about what they've spent on their equipment, how they use it, and what it costs. So, as an example, this sawmill, the way it's currently orientated, is about $7,500 to $8,000, and you can buy a lot of wood for that much money. And to produce all that much, it turns into this big math problem. How much wood did you get out of it? How much did you spend on maintenance? What's your time worth? On and on and on. And as an equipment review YouTube channel, I have those conversations constantly. Get a new sawmill. Well, does that really justify it? I'll just buy wood. Get a new log splitter. How much wood are you going to split to justify that expensive splitter? And with the caveat that a lot of times I'm not paying for the equipment. I'm either borrowing it to demonstrate on YouTube, the company's provided it to me, some of it I do buy. That's a caveat that lets me play outside the rules. But the conversations become, for the viewer, does it make sense to buy this? Does it make sense to buy that? Does it make sense to buy the mower? And I have that conversation without wanting to have an opinion on how you spend your money. It's just part of the review process. Is this underpriced, overpriced, properly valued? Get an expensive mower. How much time does that really save you over just using an older mower, a used mower, a cheaper mower? Does it make sense? So I get really into everything I talk about needs to have a cost justification. So recently, I got this hay baler brought to me from Phil at Small Farm Innovations. They brought me this hay baling equipment to demonstrate on the YouTube channel. And all I can think about, he's showing it to me and he tells me what it cost. And I'm sitting around like for days and weeks on end as I'm waiting to get ready to bale my own hay, thinking about how much land do you need for this baler to be cost justified? What about a smaller baler? What about a bigger baler? What about this other equipment? Does any of it cost justify? How much land do you have to have? If you're a farmer and your entire income is based on using your tractor to farm your land, then obviously you have to cost justify everything you do because you're using that equipment to earn a living. But I went and I baled hay with Jake and his father Steve. And they've got a 300-acre property, but most of it's wooded and they use it for hunting. The part of it that they can get hay off of is like 50 acres, and they don't even hay all of it. But they hay maybe 40 or 50 acres. And they bought a fairly expensive baler from New Holland and a bigger tractor to run it. And I said, do you think this property is big enough to justify that baler? And he said, I don't care. He said, the truth is, it doesn't matter to me if it's cost justified. Here's the situation. I own this property. I could just cut it with a brush cutter and just waste it. But I want to properly take care of this property. I want to get a yield out of the ground. I don't want to waste the land. I enjoy baling hay. I want to bale hay. He says, now over a long enough timeline, it probably does. He goes, I've never done the math, but I do profit from these hay bales. We use some of them personally. We sell some of them. We sell them fairly cheap because I'm not trying to make a living baling hay, but I do get a return, and I've had this baler for a lot of years. And then the conversation continued, and I said, I'm trying to think from the perspective of my viewer. Does it make sense to buy this hay baler? How much land would you have to have? How many years baling 20 acres? I bale 20 acres. how many years would you have to bale 20 acres to pay for the hay equipment? And he said, you can do that math, and that's a good idea. And I was trying to do it and saying, well, about 5 or 6 years, it would pay for itself. And then if it lasts 10 years, then you're profitable the second half of that term. Whatever the case may be, I didn't get detail with the numbers. I'm just spitting ideas out of my mind and trying to talk through it with people who have experience. And he said, for me, my location is kind of remote. There's not a farmer right next to me. The nearest farmer is not willing to bring his equipment here to bale small acreage. A lot of the customer for this doesn't care that it's cost justified up front. And I had trouble swallowing that. I think for me, this equipment is all about cost justification. And we're sitting there, and you guys know I'm doing a zero carb thing, but I'm sitting there with these two guys and they're having a beer. And I thought, what the heck, I'll have a beer. And we just sat there on the porch for a long time and talked. And I said, well, you know, the truth of the matter is, I've cut firewood with a bunch of different methods. I've got videos where I cut firewood with an axe and a chainsaw and nothing else. Not an axe, a splitting maul and a chainsaw and nothing else. And I've got videos splitting wood with a homeowner splitter. And I've got videos splitting wood with expensive splitters. And I've done time tests and cost comparisons. And I've tried to run all these numbers. I said, really? I don't think it makes financial sense to split wood to heat your home. People can disagree. It all depends on how you value your time. Could you be making more money doing something else? Do you enjoy splitting wood? Do you have access to unlimited amounts of free wood? Are you looking at it on a 30-year timeline? Or are you saying over the next 3 years it would be more cost effective just to heat my home with natural gas or whatever the case may be? For the majority of guys who split wood, they want to split wood. It's cardiovascular exercise, it's time in nature, it's connection to their heritage and their roots. Their grandfather split wood. It's making use of that tree that they've been driving by for the last 20 years on their own property, and they can see it's rotting and it's time for it to come down, and they bring it down and salvage the usable wood, and it's not wasting a natural resource. And for most guys who split wood and burn it for heat, they're doing it because they want to do it. And they may try to do it in a cost-justifiable manner, or think of it that way, but at the end of the day, they're going to do it whether it makes sense or not. Now, all of these conversations come with the caveat of, you know, it's good to buy smart, buy used equipment, find a deal, find the best value so that it's closer to cost-justified or maybe even profitable. But we're still sitting on the porch and we talk about firewood for a little while because he's got a wood stove and a stack of wood. And I said, you know, for most of us, it would be more cost effective to have someone who has a commercial wood processor or who loves splitting wood to do all that work and just buy wood from them. It's pretty cheap to buy wood. And he said, I just like doing it. Works for me. You know, he's retired and he wants to spend his time on this property working outdoors. Good for you, sir. Get some sunlight and some vitamin D and exercise and be in touch with the world, the outside world around you. And so that we talked about firewood and baling equipment. We talked a little about tractors. And I said, what I've thought for a long time is that there's this stereotypical image of a guy my age going through a midlife crisis and saying, I want to leave my wife and get a young girlfriend and a sports car. I'm panicked about, like, it's midlife crisis. Like, oh, I'm reaching the worst half of my life and I want to do flashy and fun and exciting things. There's this stereotypical image of that. And I think that's been replaced. I think the idea of the Corvette for a lot of people has been replaced with the idea of a compact tractor. You say, I've been successful at whatever I do. I'm a linesman, I'm a office worker, I'm I'm successful professionally on any type of level, and I have enough income that I could buy something nice if I want. Maybe I'm 50, 60, 70 years old, whatever the case may be. I've worked hard in life. I have some resources available. I'm going to buy a fancy new truck and a bass boat. What do you use as cost justification for your bass boat? Do you say like, a fish that I catch, if I fillet that fish and I weigh the pieces, and that fillet of fish is worth $7 off of this fish I caught, if I bought it at the grocery store, how many fish do I have to catch to justify the cost of a bass boat? Nobody's doing that, because you'd have to fish 14 hours a day and be super successful, and your bass boat's going to break down before you ever get that far. People buy a bass boat because they love fishing from a boat on a lake. They do it because that's what they want to do. And if what you want to do is have your 3-acre property and play around with a little tractor, I would rather, if you give me the option between trying to remove a stump with my compact tractor or a day on the lake, I'm working on that tractor every day of the week. To me, time on the lake, I get bored and stir crazy, and I'm worried about there's liability, somebody could drown, it's a lot of work, you got to get the food and the snacks, and you're baking in the sun, you can get seasick, you've got all these different things. To me, it's just this giant hassle going out on the lake. Well, that's personal preference. Maybe you love it. We can all like different things. What I love is being the steward of this property. And it would be really difficult to be the steward of this property without a tractor. Now, the decision of whether you want to be frugally and financially responsible and buy a 15-year-old used tractor or buy something brand new, none of my business, none of anybody's business. It's about where you're at in life financially, what your goals are. Are you trying to build your retirement from the age of 40 to 60 so that you can live your best life? And right now what I need to do is make sure that every dollar counts. Great. Great plan, because we all need to prepare for retirement. But if you're 62 and you've made good decisions from the age of 30 to 62, and now you've got money sitting in the bank and you don't carry a lot of debt, and you're like, I just want what I want, it doesn't matter if you only put 50 hours a year on that tractor. It doesn't make any difference. And it's nobody's business but yours. So I just think it's an interesting conversation. Does your lawnmower has to be cost justified? If you pay twice as much of it, does it have to mow exactly twice as fast and save you X amount of time on mowing? Where do you put the value on a better suspension for your seat that takes away your back pain? What's that worth? Why not? Look, you can hire someone to mow your yard a lot of times before you pay for a $15,000 mower. For the average tractor owner, you could make a list of everything you do. Twice a year, I brush hog that area and this area and this area. Twice a year, I till a garden. Twice a year, I straighten up the rock on my driveway. When a tree falls, I drag those limbs off. Make a list of everything that you do with your tractor and say, what would it cost me to pay someone to do those things? I bet you're 20 years of doing that before you pay for the tractor. It all depends, right? So my point is that everything doesn't need a cost justification. I don't want a Corvette. I don't want a bass boat. I want a tractor and a nice log splitter. And I want to cut my own trees, make boards out of them, build my daughter a kitchen table out of a tree that I cut down. That's what I want to do. I think there are a lot of people out there who think about it like I do. I appreciate you taking time to watch the video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.